Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Endeavour, watching the stars through the main view screen. The research ship had been traveling through space for 3 months, studying distant planets and collecting data about alien life forms. Jake never expected his routine mission to change everything for humanity. The communication console started beeping with an urgent signal. Lieutenant Carol Adams looked up from her station with surprise on her face. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission. It's not from Earth and it's not from any human ship." Jake walked over to the console. In his 15 years of space service, he had never encountered alien contact. Earth scientists had found signs of alien life, but no direct communication had ever happened before this moment. "Put it on the main screen," Jake ordered. The view screen flickered and showed the image of a tall, blue-skinned creature with large eyes and elegant features. The being wore what looked like ceremonial robes covered in strange symbols that seemed to glow with their own light. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Zenthari Empire. I speak for the Galactic Council, which represents 47 civilized species across this galaxy." Dr. Lisa Hayes, the ship's xenobiologist, stepped forward with her mouth open in shock. She had spent her entire career studying the possibility of alien life, but she never imagined first contact would happen like this. Ambassador Veltar continued speaking. "Your species has reached a level of development that allows you to participate in our most sacred tradition. Every 1,000 years, the Galactic Council holds the Millennial Combat Tournament. This event brings together the finest warriors from each civilization to compete in tests of military skill and strategic thinking." Jake felt his heart beating faster. A galactic tournament involving alien species sounded both exciting and terrifying. "What kind of tournament?" he asked. "Each participating species selects 12 of their best fighters," Veltar explained. "These teams compete in various combat scenarios designed to test different aspects of warfare. The winning species gains significant influence in galactic politics and receives favorable trading agreements for the next millennium," Dr. Hayes whispered to Jake. "This could be the most important moment in human history." Veltar's expression changed to something that looked almost like amusement. "We understand that humans are relatively new to space travel and lack the advanced technologies possessed by other galactic civilizations. However, the Council believes in giving all species the opportunity to participate. Consider this an educational experience." The way the ambassador said, "educational experience," made Jake feel uncomfortable. It sounded like the aliens expected humans to lose badly and learn their place in the galaxy. "What happens if we refuse to participate?" Jake asked. "Refusal would indicate that your species is not ready for galactic citizenship," Veltar replied. "Such species are typically isolated from galactic society until they develop further. This isolation can last for many thousands of years." The message was clear. Humanity had to participate in this tournament or face being cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Jake knew this decision was too big for him to make alone. "We need time to discuss this with our leaders on Earth," Jake said. "Of course," Veltar nodded. "You have 30 Earth days to prepare your team and travel to Nexus Station, where the tournament will take place. Coordinates and additional information are being transmitted to your ship now." The alien's image disappeared, leaving the bridge, crew in stunned silence. Captain Ryan Bell arrived on the bridge 20 minutes later after Jake called him. Bell was a veteran military officer who had commanded various ships before taking charge of the Endeavour. He listened carefully as Jake explained the alien contact and the tournament invitation. "This changes everything," Bell said after hearing the full story. "We need to contact Earth Command immediately." The message to Earth took several hours to reach home due to the vast distance. The response came back faster than expected, showing how seriously Earth's leaders took this situation. Admiral Patricia Stone appeared on the communication screen from Earth Command headquarters. "Commander Morrison, Captain Bell, this is the most significant event in human history. The President has ordered the immediate formation of a tournament team. Colonel Amy Foster has been assigned to lead the selection process." Colonel Foster appeared on screen next to the Admiral. She was known throughout the military for her brilliant tactical mind and her ability to train elite soldiers. "We have "25 days to choose and prepare our team," Foster said. "This will be the greatest challenge humanity has ever faced." Dr. Hayes had spent the last few hours analyzing the technical data sent by the aliens. "Colonel, based on what I've learned about the other species, we're facing opponents with incredible advantages. The Xanthari can manipulate energy and matter. The Kithara operate as a hive mind with perfect coordination. The Valdris have cybernetic enhancements and advanced AI systems." Colonel Foster nodded grimly. "Then we'll have to find different advantages. Humans have survived and thrived by adapting to difficult situations. We'll approach this tournament the same way." Over the next week, news of the alien contact and tournament spread across Earth. The media called it everything from humanity's greatest opportunity to a disaster waiting to happen. Military experts debated whether humans could compete against technologically superior aliens. Colonel Foster worked around the clock to identify potential team members. She reviewed files from every branch of the military, looking for soldiers with exceptional skills, adaptability, and mental toughness. The team would need Marines, Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, Air Force pilots, and specialists from various fields. Marine Sergeant Tony Rodriguez received the call while training recruits. At Camp Pendleton, Navy SEAL Lisa Chen was conducting underwater operations when her commanding officer ordered her to report immediately. Army Ranger Kevin Taylor was on a mountain training exercise when a helicopter arrived to take him to the selection center. Each potential team member underwent intense physical and psychological testing. They faced combat simulations, problem-solving challenges, and scenarios designed to test their ability to work with others under extreme pressure. Meanwhile, intercepted alien communications revealed that other galactic species viewed humanity's participation with amusement and contempt. The Xanthari referred to humans as primitive warmongers. The Valdris called them barely evolved creatures with crude weapons. Most aliens expected the human team to be eliminated in the first round of competition. This attitude only strengthened Colonel Foster's determination to prove them wrong. She knew that underestimating opponents was a dangerous mistake in any conflict. If the aliens wanted to dismiss human capabilities, she would use that arrogance against them. As the selection process continued, one thing became clear. Humanity would not have the most advanced technology or the most powerful individual warriors, but they would have something else, something the aliens might not expect or understand. They would have the uniquely human ability to adapt, innovate, and find solutions where none seemed to exist. The tournament would test more than just fighting skills. It would determine humanity's place in the galaxy. The human transport ship arrived at Nexus Station after a long journey through space. Major Sam Brooks looked out the window at the massive structure that would host the tournament. The station was bigger than any human city, with sections that spun slowly to create artificial gravity and docking bays that could hold ships the size of mountains. Brooks had been selected to lead the human team after proving himself in countless combat situations. He was joined by 11 other soldiers, each representing the best of human military training. They carried standard human weapons and equipment, which looked primitive compared to what they had seen other species using. Sergeant Tony Rodriguez adjusted his rifle strap as they walked through the station's main corridor. The weapon felt familiar and reliable in his hands, even though he knew it fired simple bullets while other species had energy weapons that could disintegrate targets instantly. "Look at this place," whispered Navy SEAL Lisa Chen as they passed through a section with walls made of some kind of glowing crystal. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours." The team made their way to the competitor housing area, where each species had been assigned quarters. The human section was located between the Kithara delegation and the Valdris team. As they walked past other species, Brooks noticed the looks they received. A group of Xanthari warriors stood near their quarters, their blue skin shimmering with energy patterns. One of them pointed at the humans and said something in their language that caused the others to laugh. Brooks did not need a translation to understand they were being mocked. Dr. Elena Martinez, who served as the team's tactical analyst, had studied every available piece of information about their competitors. She approached Brooks with a concerned expression. "Major, I've been observing the other teams. The Zenthari can reshape matter with their minds. I watched one of them turn a metal bar into a sword just by touching it. Brooks nodded. He had expected this. Earth's intelligence reports had warned them about the advanced capabilities of other species. But seeing it in person was different. They continued walking and encountered a group of Valdris warriors near the central hub. These beings were tall and covered in cybernetic implants that glowed with digital displays. Their eyes had been replaced with advanced sensors, and their arms contained built-in weapon systems. Army Ranger Kevin Taylor stopped walking when he saw one of the Valdris warriors scanning him with some kind of optical device. "They're analyzing us," he said quietly. The Valdris warrior finished its scan and spoke in a mechanical voice that came from speakers in its chest. "Primitive biological forms, low threat assessment, recommendation, minimal defensive protocols. Required?" The comment stung, but Brooks kept his expression neutral. He had learned long ago that showing anger or frustration gave opponents an advantage. They finally reached their assigned quarters, which were comfortable but basic compared to the elaborate facilities given to other species. As the team settled in, they could hear conversations from neighboring areas through the walls. Marine Sergeant Maria Lopez, who spoke several Earth languages, managed to understand some of the alien discussions using a translation device. "They're talking about us," she reported to Brooks. "The Kithera Collective is debating whether humans will last more than 10 minutes in the first challenge." The Kithera were perhaps the most unusual opponents they would face. The species operated as a hive mind, with perfect coordination between all members. Brooks had watched them move through the station earlier, and it was like watching a single organism with multiple bodies. Corporal Alex Thompson was cleaning his gear when he overheard another conversation. A Quillian warrior was explaining to someone that humans were violent primitives who solved problems by hitting them with sticks. The Quillians had wings and could fly, making them masters of aerial combat. That evening, all the teams gathered in the main hall for the opening ceremony. Ambassador Veltar stood at the center of a raised platform, addressing the assembled warriors. "Welcome, champions of the galaxy," Veltar announced. "You represent the finest military traditions of your respective civilizations. This tournament will test your skills, your strategies, and your ability to adapt under pressure." Brooks studied the other teams as Veltar spoke. The Zenthari team stood in perfect formation, energy dancing across their skin. The Valdris warriors remained motionless, their cybernetic parts humming quietly. The Kithera Collective moved in perfect synchronization, like dancers following the same rhythm. "The first challenge will take place tomorrow," Veltar continued. "You will face an urban warfare scenario designed to test your tactical abilities and combat effectiveness. The arena is a replica city with multiple levels, environmental hazards, and automated defense systems." Dr. Martinez took notes as Veltar explained the rules. Each team would start at different points around the city and must capture and hold strategic locations while defending against both the arena's systems and other teams. After the ceremony, the teams returned to their quarters. Brooks gathered his soldiers for a planning session. They spread out maps of the arena and discussed possible strategies. "We can't match their technology," Brooks said bluntly. "The Zenthari will try to overwhelm positions with energy attacks. The Valdris will rely on their shields and targeting systems. The Kithera will move as one unit with perfect coordination." Lieutenant Nick Parker, the team's pilot, studied the arena layout. "These other species have been fighting the same way for thousands of years. They have established patterns and preferred tactics. That might be our advantage," said combat medic Tracy White. "They expect us to fight like them, but we don't have their abilities. We'll have to fight like humans." Sergeant Rodriguez nodded. "Back home, we train for situations where we're outgunned and outnumbered. We use terrain, timing, and surprise to level the playing field." Brooks looked around the room at his team. They were facing opponents with superior technology, energy manipulation, perfect coordination, and advanced AI systems. Any military strategist would say the humans had no chance of winning, but Brooks had spent his career fighting against impossible odds. He had learned that battles were not always won by the side with better equipment. Sometimes they were won by the side that thought differently, adapted faster, and refused to give up. "Get some rest," Brooks told his team. Tomorrow we show the galaxy what humans can do. As the team prepared for sleep, conversations continued in the corridors outside. Alien warriors discussed betting odds on which team would be eliminated first. Most agreed that the humans would not survive the opening challenge. The Zenthari team leader was heard saying that fighting humans would be like stepping on insects. A Valdris strategist calculated that human weapons would be ineffective against their energy shields. The Kithara collective had already decided to ignore the human team entirely, considering them too weak to be worth their attention. None of the alien species had bothered to study human military history. They did not know about the battles where humans had triumphed against superior forces through cunning, determination, and unconventional tactics. They saw only primitive weapons and basic equipment. This oversight would prove to be a costly mistake. The tournament was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to discover that underestimating humans was never a wise decision. The arena doors opened with a loud mechanical sound that echoed through the massive city replica. Major Sam Brooks led his team into the urban environment, checking their equipment one final time. The simulated city stretched out before them, with towering buildings, narrow alleys, and multiple levels connected by bridges and walkways. "Remember the plan," Brooks said into his radio. "We don't try to match their firepower. We use what they don't expect." The human team split into 3 groups of 4 soldiers each. Brooks took the first group toward the central plaza, while Sergeant Tony Rodriguez led the second group through the Eastern District, and Navy SEAL Lisa Chen moved her group through the underground tunnel system. From their starting position, they could see the Zenthari team advancing through the main avenue. Blue energy crackled around their bodies as they prepared to assault the first strategic point. The energy beings moved confidently, expecting to overwhelm any opposition with raw power. Rodriguez whispered into his radio, "Zenthari team is heading straight for Building Alpha. They're not checking for traps or ambush points." The Valdris team moved through the western section with mechanical precision. Their cybernetic sensors scanned every corner, but they focused only on direct threats. Their AI systems calculated optimal paths based on efficiency and firepower. Advantage Army Ranger. Kevin Taylor watched the Valdris from a hidden position. "They're following predictable patterns," he reported. "Their AI is making them too logical." The Kithara collective entered the arena as a single, coordinated unit. All 12 warriors moved in perfect formation, their hive mind allowing instant communication and flawless teamwork. They advanced toward the northern checkpoint with overwhelming coordination. Corporal Alex Thompson observed the Kithara from a concealed rooftop position. "They move like one organism, but that might be a weakness. If we can disrupt their formation, they might have trouble adapting." The first strategic point was a communications tower in the center of the arena. Controlling it would provide valuable intelligence about enemy positions and arena hazards. The Zenthari reached it first, surrounding the base with energy barriers. But the humans had no intention of attacking the tower directly. Instead, Sergeant Maria Lopez led her squad through a series of maintenance tunnels that the other teams had ignored. These passages allowed them to move unseen beneath the city streets. The arena's automated defenses activated as teams approached strategic locations. Turret guns emerged from building walls, and robotic sentries began patrolling key areas. The Zenthari team responded by blasting the defenses with energy beams, destroying them quickly, but creating lots of noise and bright lights that revealed their position. The Valdris team used their energy shields to absorb the automated attacks, while their targeting systems locked onto the defensive robots. They methodically destroyed each threat with precise shots, but their approach was slow and predictable. The Kithara collective surrounded each automated defense and destroyed them through coordinated attacks. Their teamwork was perfect, but they had to maintain their formation to keep their hive mind connection strong. Meanwhile, the humans took a completely different approach. Instead of fighting the automated defenses, they studied them. Combat medic Tracy White discovered that the robots followed simple patrol patterns and could be avoided with careful timing. "The defense systems aren't trying to kill us," she reported to Brooks. "They're testing our ability to overcome obstacles. We don't have to destroy them." Lieutenant Nick Parker found that some of the automated turrets could be reprogrammed using basic hacking techniques. These systems are designed to be challenging but fair, he said. If we're clever, we can turn them to our advantage. The first major confrontation happened when the Zenthari team encountered the Quillian warriors near the eastern checkpoint. The flying aliens attacked from above with energy weapons, but the Zenthari responded with massive energy blasts that lit up the sky. Both teams focused so intensely on their battle that they ignored everything else around them. This gave the humans an opportunity to achieve their real objective. While the aliens fought each other for control of the obvious strategic points, Lopez's squad had been moving through the underground tunnels toward a hidden objective that the other teams had overlooked. The arena's real prize was not the communications tower or the checkpoints, but a central control room that could influence the entire city's systems. Brooks realized that the tournament designers had created multiple layers of challenge. The obvious objectives were meant to test direct combat ability, but the hidden objectives rewarded tactical thinking and problem-solving skills. All teams converge on the central district, Brooks ordered, but avoid the main streets. Use the route we planned. The human teams moved through the city using paths that other species ignored. They climbed through building interiors, crawled through drainage systems, and used maintenance ladders to reach different levels. Their approach was slower than flying or energy teleportation, but it kept them hidden. Thompson discovered that many of the arena's environmental hazards could be used as weapons. Damaged water pipes could flood areas, electrical systems could be overloaded to create blackouts, and structural supports could be weakened to cause controlled collapses. We're not just fighting in this city, Thompson reported. We're fighting with the city itself. The Valdris team finally noticed the humans when Rodriguez's group emerged from an underground passage behind their position. The cybernetic warriors immediately spun around, their targeting systems locking onto the human soldiers. But Rodriguez had anticipated this response. His team scattered in multiple directions using tactics they had learned fighting guerrilla wars on Earth. The Valdris AI system struggled to track multiple fast-moving targets that constantly changed direction and used cover effectively. Their computers are too logical, Rodriguez said as his team disappeared into a maze of narrow alleys. They can't predict chaos. The Zenthari team finally secured the communications tower, but they discovered it provided less advantage than expected. The tower only revealed the positions of teams that were moving in the open, and the humans had been underground or inside buildings for most of the challenge. Chen's team reached the central control room first, but they found it heavily defended by the arena's most advanced automated systems. Instead of attacking directly, they studied the defenses and discovered a weakness. The control room's security systems were designed to repel energy attacks and resist cybernetic hacking, but they were not prepared for humans who combined physical infiltration with creative problem-solving. White found that the room's ventilation system could be accessed from an adjacent building. Taylor discovered that the power grid had a manual override switch in a location the other teams would never think to check. Working together, the human team disabled the control room's defenses without triggering any alarms. They gained access to the city's central systems just as the other teams were beginning to realize that the obvious objectives were not the most important ones. From the control room, the humans could see the entire arena and track all the other teams. They could also influence environmental systems, security measures, and communication networks throughout the city. The Galactic audience watching the tournament had expected the humans to be eliminated within the first hour. Instead, they controlled the most important strategic asset in the arena, while the supposedly superior alien teams were still fighting over secondary objectives. The tournament judges observed with growing interest as the primitive humans demonstrated tactical abilities that none of the advanced species had shown. The galaxy was beginning to learn that there was more to human warfare than crude weapons and brute force. The second challenge took place in a massive asteroid field that had been converted into a complex maze of tunnels, chambers, and floating platforms. Major Sam Brooks studied the briefing materials as his team prepared for what the tournament organizers called the impossible mission. Each team would face a scenario designed to break them. They had to rescue civilians from a disaster zone while defending against multiple enemy forces, all with limited resources and no possibility of retreat. The challenge was specifically designed to force teams into situations where their normal tactics would fail. Ambassador Veltar explained the rules with a serious expression. This test measures your ability to make hard choices when victory seems impossible. Your teams will face moral dilemmas, resource shortages, and tactical situations that have no perfect solutions. Dr. Elena Martinez reviewed the scenario details with growing concern. Major, this challenge eliminated 3 teams in the last tournament. The Zenthari team that attempted it lost half their members to psychological trauma. The scenario is designed to find breaking points. Brooks gathered his team in their preparation chamber. Through the windows, they could see other teams making their final preparations. The Valdris warriors were running diagnostic checks on their cybernetic systems. The Cathera collective was synchronizing their hive mind connection. The Zenthari team was practicing energy manipulation techniques. This challenge is different, Brooks told his soldiers. It's not just about fighting. We have to save people while fighting impossible odds. Some of you might not come back from this simulation. Sergeant Tony Rodriguez checked his ammunition supply. Sir, we've been in impossible situations before. Afghanistan, Syria, the Congo. We know how to operate when everything goes wrong. The human team entered the asteroid field through a narrow tunnel that led to the disaster zone. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the complex and alarm sirens echoed through the corridors. The scenario had placed them in the role of rescue forces responding to a terrorist attack on a civilian station. According to their mission briefing, hostile forces had taken control of the station and were holding 300 civilians hostage in different locations. The station's life support systems were failing, structural damage was spreading, and enemy reinforcements were arriving every hour. Navy SEAL Lisa Chen led the first squad toward the civilian area in Section A. The corridor was filled with smoke and debris, making visibility poor. As they moved forward, they could hear people calling for help from behind locked doors. 12 civilians trapped in here, Chen reported. But the hallway beyond is controlled by enemy forces. If we open these doors, we expose the civilians to hostile fire. This was exactly the kind of impossible choice the scenario was designed to create. Saving the civilians required exposing them to danger, but leaving them trapped meant they would die when the life support failed. Army Ranger Kevin Taylor found a different approach. Instead of choosing between bad options, he created a third option. Chen, can you access the station's environmental controls from your position? Chen found a maintenance panel near the trapped civilians. Yes, but what are you thinking? Taylor was already moving through a ventilation shaft above the enemy position. Give me 30 seconds, then flood that corridor with fire suppression foam. I'll take out their weapons while they're blinded. The plan worked perfectly. The enemy forces were neutralized without exposing the civilians to danger. But this was only the beginning of the challenge. Lieutenant Commander Steve Morgan led his squad towards Section B, where enemy forces had barricaded themselves with hostages. The traditional approach would be a direct assault, but that would result in civilian casualties. Instead, Morgan used a tactic that the alien teams would never consider. He opened communication with the enemy forces and began negotiating. This is Commander Morgan of the rescue team, he broadcast. Your position is surrounded and your escape routes are blocked. But I'm willing to discuss terms. The enemy leader responded with demands that were obviously unacceptable. But Morgan kept talking, using the negotiation to gather intelligence about the enemy positions and the condition of the hostages. While Morgan talked, Corporal Alex Thompson was moving through the station's maintenance areas. He located the power distribution center and began selectively cutting power to different sections of the enemy stronghold. Negotiation is just another weapon, Morgan explained to his team. Keep them talking while we position ourselves for success. The enemy forces became confused when their lights started failing in random patterns. Their communications equipment malfunctioned. Their security systems went offline. By the time they realized what was happening, Thompson had created multiple entry points that allowed the human team to rescue the hostages without a firefight. Meanwhile, the other alien teams were struggling with the same scenarios. The Zenthari team attempted to blast through enemy positions with overwhelming force, but their energy attacks caused structural damage that killed civilians. The scenario counted this as a mission failure. The Valdris team relied on their AI systems to calculate optimal assault strategies, but the artificial intelligence could not account for the unpredictable human element. Their logical approaches failed when enemy forces acted irrationally or when civilian behavior defied computer models. The Kythera Collective faced their greatest challenge when their hive-mind connection was disrupted by enemy jamming equipment. Without their perfect coordination, the individual warriors struggled to adapt to changing circumstances. Combat medic Tracy White found herself in the most difficult situation of all. She had reached a group of wounded civilians, but moving them would require abandoning her defensive position. Enemy forces were advancing, and she had limited ammunition. Traditional military doctrine would require her to maintain her position and call for backup. But the civilians would die before help arrived. White made a decision that shocked the tournament observers. She abandoned her defensive position and began moving the wounded civilians one by one to a safer location. She exposed herself to enemy fire repeatedly, using her own body as a shield to protect people she had never met. White, fall back to a defensive position, Brooks ordered over the radio. "Negative, sir," White replied while carrying an injured child to safety. "These people need medical attention now, I can't leave them." White's actions violated every principle of tactical self-preservation, but they saved 12 lives. Her willingness to risk herself for others demonstrated something the alien species had never encountered in combat. Sergeant Danny Rodriguez faced a similar moral test when he discovered that completing his mission objective would require sacrificing a small group of civilians to save a larger group. The scenario was designed to force soldiers to make calculations about acceptable losses. Rodriguez refused to accept the premise. Instead of choosing which civilians to save, he found a way to save everyone by using himself as bait to draw enemy forces away from both groups. Sometimes the best tactical decision is to ignore tactics completely, Rodriguez said as he led enemy forces into an ambush that his teammates had prepared. The human team completed their mission objectives while suffering only minor injuries. More importantly, they saved every civilian in the scenario, without making the moral compromises that the challenge was designed to force. The tournament judges reviewed the results with amazement. Every other species had been forced to choose between mission success and moral principles. The humans had somehow achieved both. In the observation deck, alien dignitaries watched recordings of the human performance with growing respect. The Zenthari team leader, who had previously dismissed humans as primitive, studied the tactical recordings with intense interest. "They do not think like warriors," the Zenthari observed. "They think like protectors. This changes everything about how they approach combat." The Valdris team commander ran additional computer simulations, trying to understand how the humans had succeeded where logical analysis had failed. "Their decision-making process defies mathematical modeling," the cybernetic warrior reported. "They incorporate variables that our systems cannot quantify." The Kythera Collective struggled to comprehend human individual initiative. Their hive mind could not understand how soldiers could act independently while still maintaining unit cohesion. As the human team returned from the challenge, they were unaware that they had fundamentally changed Galactic understanding of military effectiveness. They had proven that true strength came not from superior technology or perfect coordination, but from the willingness to sacrifice for others and the creativity to find solutions where none seemed to exist. The final challenge arena was the largest structure the human team had ever seen. It stretched across an entire moon, with environments ranging from frozen wastelands to burning deserts, from underwater cities to floating platforms in the clouds. This was where the remaining teams would face the ultimate test of military capability. Major Sam Brooks stood with his team at the entrance to the final arena. Only 4 teams had survived the previous challenges: the humans, the Zenthari, the Valdris, and surprisingly, a team from the Rakthani species that no one had expected to advance so far. Ambassador Veltar addressed the remaining competitors with a grave expression. "This final challenge will test everything you have learned about warfare, leadership, and sacrifice. You must defend a civilian population against an overwhelming invasion while achieving multiple strategic objectives that seem to conflict with each other." Dr. Elena Martinez, studied the scenario briefing with growing amazement. The challenge required teams to protect 50,000 simulated civilians scattered across 12 different settlements, while simultaneously destroying enemy command centers, capturing strategic resources, and maintaining supply lines across hostile territory. "The enemy forces outnumber us 20 to 1, she reported to Brooks. "Their technology is superior to anything we've faced. The civilian settlements are located in positions that are almost impossible to defend. And we have to do all of this with the resources we can carry." The other teams received the same briefing, but their reactions were very different. The Zenthari team leader studied the energy patterns of the enemy forces, calculating how much power would be needed to destroy them. The Valdris commander ran probability analyses to determine which objectives could be achieved with acceptable losses. The Rakthani team, which had advanced through pure aggression and superior individual combat skills, prepared for a series of direct assaults against enemy positions. But Brooks saw something different in the challenge. The scenario was not really about defeating superior forces. It was about understanding what victory actually meant. "This isn't a military exercise," he told his team. "It's a test of judgment. The real question is not whether we can win, but whether we understand what winning looks like." The challenge began at dawn on the simulated planet. Enemy forces launched simultaneous attacks against all 12 civilian settlements, while advancing toward the strategic objectives that each team needed to capture. The Zenthari team responded with massive displays of energy manipulation, creating barriers around the settlements and launching devastating attacks against enemy forces. Their power was impressive, but each energy blast consumed resources they could not replace. The Valdris team deployed with mechanical precision, their AI systems calculating optimal defensive positions and target priorities. They established strong defensive lines but struggled to adapt when enemy forces used unexpected tactics. The Rakthani team charged directly at the enemy forces with incredible courage and ferocity. Their individual warriors were formidable, but they had no strategy beyond overwhelming their opponents through superior fighting ability. The human team took a completely different approach. Instead of trying to defend all 12 settlements simultaneously, they made a decision that shocked the tournament observers. "We're going to abandon Settlement 7, Brooks announced to his team. Sergeant Tony Rodriguez looked at his commander with surprise. "Sir, there are 4,000 civilians in that settlement." "No," Brooks replied. "There are 4,000 simulated civilians in a computer program. But the lesson this challenge is trying to teach us is real." Brooks had realized something that the other teams missed. Settlement 7 was positioned in a location that was impossible to defend. Any attempt to protect it would require resources that would doom the other 11 settlements. The challenge was testing whether commanders could make hard choices for the greater good. But Brooks was not willing to accept that choice. Instead of abandoning Settlement 7 or wasting resources trying to defend it, he ordered his team to evacuate the civilians to more defensible positions. "We're not going to choose which people live and which people die," he told his soldiers. "We're going to save everyone by changing the rules of the game." Navy SEAL Lisa Chen led a team that established evacuation routes between the settlements. Army Ranger Kevin Taylor organized civilian volunteers to help with the evacuation process. Combat medic Tracy White set up medical stations to treat wounded civilians and soldiers. The evacuation plan required perfect timing and coordination. While half the human team moved civilians to safety, the other half had to delay enemy forces without engaging in battles they could not win. Lieutenant Commander Steve Morgan used deception tactics to convince enemy forces that the humans had much larger numbers than they actually possessed. He created false radio communications, set up dummy positions with automated weapons, and used electronic warfare to make enemy sensors detect phantom units. Corporal Alex Thompson found ways to turn the environment itself into a weapon. He triggered avalanches to block enemy advance routes, created floods to slow enemy vehicles, and used controlled forest fires to force enemy forces into areas where they could be more easily contained. The human approach confused the enemy AI systems which had been programmed to respond to conventional military tactics. The artificial intelligence could not adapt to human creativity and unconventional thinking. Meanwhile, the other teams were struggling with the impossible choices the scenario was designed to create. The Xanthari team had exhausted their energy, reserves trying to defend every position simultaneously. The Valdris team had calculated that they could save 8 of the 12 settlements by sacrificing the other 4. The Rakthani team had suffered heavy casualties in direct confrontations with superior enemy forces. As the challenge entered its final phase, the human team had successfully evacuated 90% of the civilian population to secure locations. They had achieved this without losing a single soldier, and while maintaining control of most strategic objectives. The tournament judges watched in amazement as the humans completed objectives that were supposed to be mutually exclusive. They had protected the civilians, captured the strategic resources, destroyed enemy command centers, and maintained their supply lines. Sergeant Danny Rodriguez made the final decisive move when he realized that the enemy command structure depended entirely on their central communication hub. Instead of attacking it directly, he found a way to turn the enemy forces against each other by feeding false information into their communication system. The challenge ended with complete human victory. Every civilian had been saved, every strategic objective had been achieved, and the human team had suffered only minor injuries. In the observation deck, representatives from all 47 galactic civilizations watched the results in stunned silence. The species that had been dismissed as primitive warmongers had just demonstrated the most sophisticated military thinking the galaxy had ever witnessed. Ambassador Veltar stepped forward to announce the final results. The winner of the Millennial Combat Tournament by unanimous decision of the judges is the human team from Earth. The announcement was followed by something unprecedented in tournament history. Instead of polite applause, the alien representatives gave the humans a standing ovation. Even the competing teams joined in acknowledging human superiority. The Xanthari team leader approached Brooks after the ceremony. "We have studied warfare for 10,000 years, the alien warrior said, but we never understood that the strongest weapon is the refusal to accept defeat." The Valdris commander analyzed the human victory for hours before reaching a conclusion. Their success comes from treating warfare as a problem to be solved, rather than a contest to be won. This perspective gives them capabilities that no amount of technology can match. The tournament victory gave humanity immediate status as the galaxy's premier military advisors. Within days of returning to Earth, Colonel Amy Foster received requests from dozens of alien civilizations seeking to learn human combat methods. The galaxy had invited humanity to participate in their tournament as a diplomatic courtesy. They expected the primitive species to be quickly eliminated and learn their place in the galactic hierarchy. Instead, they discovered that human military thinking represented an evolution in warfare that they had never imagined. The species they had underestimated became their teachers, and the galaxy would never be the same. Brooks stood on the bridge of the transport ship carrying his team back to Earth. Through the view screen, he could see the vast expanse of space that humanity would now help to protect. The tournament had been about more than proving human capabilities. It had been about showing the galaxy that strength came not from superior technology, but from the willingness to fight for what was right and the creativity to find ways to win without sacrificing principles. The humans had not just won a tournament. They had changed the galaxy's understanding of what it meant to be a warrior.